I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. So, anything change on our agenda?
Got one addition for you, Mr. Thornton, under new hires. Alice Toombs, Toombs, full-time paraprofessional, paraeducator at the elementary.
So, change our consent agenda. That would be B. Huh? Any other comments, questions? Changes? Okay, it's up to you guys.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the consent agenda with the changes with the new hire.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Right. Delegations, Mr. Peterson.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Thornton. The state's been getting a little lax in their notifications, but this is a proclamation for the month of October. It, like I said, came to us a little late, but from the state of Washington proclamation, whereas the Washington Senate has declared the month of October 2023 as National Principals Month in coordination with the efforts of the National Association of Elementary School Principals and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, working with the U.S. Congress to designate National Principals Month and resolutions thereof. And whereas principals and assistant principals play significant roles in our education system by creating hope for every student in their buildings, by leading culture, systems, and learning, by working tirelessly each day as visionaries, assessment experts, community builders, public relations experts, budget analysts, facility managers, special program administrators, and guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives. Whereas principals and assistant principals work collaboratively with families, teachers, and district officials to develop mission statements, set performance goals, and objectives for schools to achieve educational excellence and maintain high curricular standards and expectations for all students. Whereas the Association of Washington School Principals honors such exemplary principals and assistant principals who have succeeded in providing high-quality learning opportunities for students, as well as their exemplary contributions to the profession. Whereas to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals to the success of each student in Washington schools, our most valuable resource, and to encourage residents of Washington to observe Principals Month with appropriate ceremonies and activities to promote awareness of the importance of school leadership and ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim October 31st as October 2023 as Principals Month in Washington, and I encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington.
Sounds like a principal wrote that.
Or maybe a principals association, one of the two. Either way, they're much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to our proposed consent agenda. Any comments, questions? As adjusted.
I'll move to approve the proposed consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All important public comment. Ready to read the blurb. Just state your name and 3 minutes and
All right, so I'm Beth Kalinga. I am a middle school teacher at Kibbe Middle School, I'm also a graduate of Kibbe and a parent of 2 Kibbe kids. I noticed a bunch of middle school teachers are here tonight, and we wanted to address the concern of the accountability program for the middle school. It's a program we had prior to COVID, where middle school students are held responsible for their grades. So in order to qualify to go to the next grade level, the students are required to pass 75% of their classes. I actually made a copy of their policy. Do you want to pass them down? Thank you. And we used the policy for a few years before COVID happened. And then we held back a few kids each year. And when COVID happened, we, of course, paused the policy. Last year, we brought it back up, said, hey, we need to hold these kids responsible. And then we were told we couldn't hold them accountable anymore. And the reason we started the policy in the first place is we noticed that kids, like, if they don't have the motivation from home, they just don't care. And there's really no motivation to do well in middle school. And then we're sending kids, like I know I sent middle schoolers last year from 8th grade up to high school, they failed everything the whole year. And so when we bring them up to high school, they're gonna have to fail in everything. In high school, there's no wiggle room. You can't fail anything in order to graduate on time. And so we're asking that you bring this back for consideration, that we hold kids responsible. In the past, when we held kids back, they did much better the second year. They learned the skills, passed their classes, and were able to succeed in high school. We had one kid, remember the first year we did this, 7th grader, failed everything. And then the next year, we started the accountability program, talked to the kids, talked to the parents about it, and he was able to get B's and C's. And so it was definitely effective. The kids have the ability, there's lots of resources in the middle school to support the kids there. There's homework center, there's cave teachers, there's summer school, lots and lots of programs to help them succeed. So we would like to bring that policy back up. You guys, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda McDonough. I'm the 6th grade history teacher. I took over for Ben Hill. I come to you today, like many of my colleagues, to discuss the middle school accountability policy. Our accountability policy, which was agreed to by the school board, has fallen by the wayside in the years since we got back from COVID. This policy incentivized students to pass their classes and think about their futures. It is a help to parents who want additional incentives for their students, for their children to achieve academic success. Asking students to pass 75% of their quarter grades is more than reasonable. To give them no incentives beyond the wrath of parents who have high expectations, or perhaps summer school, is doing our students a disservice as they move along their educational journey. It is not getting them ready for high school where they must pass all their classes. The why of the current policy is well written. Our goal is to increase the awareness of student growth and encourage collaboration between school and families. This plan will help students understand the connection between passing classes and advancing to the next grade. So with intervention extension, study hall, homework center, and summer school, students have plenty of resources if they choose to use them. For those worried about students with IEPs, it is already written into the wording of the policy that expectations for students with an IEP will be adjusted appropriately. I have taught at a school without such a policy, and the lack of academic accountability caused increased behavioral issues, sometimes severe. A productive student is too busy learning content and skills to get in trouble. A student who has clear expectations for their behavior and academics is a student who is thinking about meeting them. Students will match the expectations that you hold for them, and my experience tells me that our students are more than capable. One of the reasons I came to Kibbe was the accountability policy. When we had it, it worked. I ask you to reinstate the policy for the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before I teach 7th grade science at the middle school. And I think the ladies have said kind of what needed to be said about this topic, but I wanted to share my experience. I was the support teacher with the kids that were retained. And so I think at most we had 5 or 6 kids that were retained in that first year, and they came to my classroom for an hour each day to receive extra help. And I remember when they first got the news that they were not going to go on to the next grade level, they were, I mean, devastated, because they didn't think that we would follow through with it, because a lot of kids thought that it's not going to happen to me. But we had kids that failed nearly every class, and they were not ready to go on to the next grade level. And so we retained them, and they came to my class for an hour each day and got extra homework support. You know, we were in contact with their parents, and it worked. Not a single one of those kids had the same experience that next year, because they applied themselves and they fixed their problems. And I had one of those students come back who graduated last year, and he came to me before graduation, and he's like, I am so glad that I got retained, because it made all the difference for me graduating. And he thanked me for the work that we did with him in the middle school. It makes a difference to the kids, and we have to hold them accountable. I have in my advisory right now, some of my new 6th graders, I have one child that is failing 5 classes and one that is failing 4 as a brand new 6th grader. And they have this attitude of, you know, nothing's gonna happen. And we as teachers are trying to tell them, you need these skills in 6th grade math to be successful in 7th grade math and 8th grade math. And if they don't get those fundamental skills, it just makes graduation and everything that comes after middle school so much harder. So please consider bringing back the policy, because we need it. We need to motivate our kids. They're struggling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have electronic?
No, we don't.
Okay, one more. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Policy 6035, lease capitalization threshold.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thornton. So this was a fairly new policy. And of course, we were really trying to get ahead of the game, because we were putting this into place before it was a mandatory policy or anything like that. And gosh, Drew, how long did it take? 4 months? 6 months?
To become actually, yeah, it's been close to a year now. Yeah, we got it at a training lead, I think on August last year, so.
What has happened is that some of the fine print has changed, though, due to an audit, and all the schools that put this in thinking they were getting ahead are now getting to go back and revise. And I'll let Drew tell you about the specifics of the wording that have to change.
Yeah, so in the policy, you could see that it says anything that's over a $250,000 threshold. So in the original policy, we had it as 1% of prior year expenditures. And they've asked all districts to change that to a dollar figure, because your expenditures change year to year. So that way it's not a moving target, it's a solid number year to year. In talking with other business managers, they decided to still go with a number around the 1%, because that's normally minimalistic, you know, and for districts, that's kind of what we want. We don't want anything over that to not be included on our schedule of long-term liabilities. So looking at our leases, we don't have that many anyway. And then we have maybe 1 or 2 that are gonna be over this threshold. So we'll make sure we can include those on the financials, but that's the biggest change. And then the other change is they've now added GASB 96, which is for IT and school software subscriptions. So it was just normal leases. They've included these types of leases as well under this threshold. So they've just asked us to update the percentage to a dollar figure. We've done that, and now adding in GASB 96 in there.
And we chose the 250?
Yes.
You did?
Yep.
Okay, that matches a
Mhm.
lot of other people, similar budgets.
Yep.
Correct. The only other change, quite frankly, is that when this policy first came out into right now, this policy should be renumbered to policy number 6550 to stay current with WASDA's recommendations, and quite frankly, what the rest of the districts around the state are putting theirs in as. We'd like to keep our numbering system consistent.
And this does only apply to leases that are longer than 12 months. So it's only, short-term leases are still gonna be the same, so.
Any questions, discussion, comments? Pretty straightforward. They don't want a percentage, they want a number.
Yep.
This is, we're gonna approve this, correct?
Asking for approval, yes.
I want to move to approve policy 635.
Are we approving it as 60-35 or are we
Or
approving it as
60-50.
65-50?
60-50? Okay,
65-50.
65-50. Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve policy 65-50.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes.
Very good.
On to B, WIA classification discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this in front of the board as this is a topic that's coming up. So the WIA, the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association, is getting ready for its next 4-year cycle, meaning placement of schools at their in their leagues and at their classification from 4A down to 1B in association with their high school grade level. And one of the things that has come up and it is not unfamiliar as you look at some of the names that are around our current league that we're in the SCAC. You can see that there are some schools that as you look across our league are significantly larger than Kiona Benton City, but yet they're in the same classification. And one of the things that this was seen in previous years when the WIA made this process happen is that schools that had a significant number of, at the time, a free and reduced lunch count, students who qualified for that were allowed to opt down into a different league classification. And so as you look at even our current league right now, you see high schools such as Toppenish and Wahluke, which are both by straight across number count significantly larger than Kiona Benton High School. And as you look around the state, you can notice there are certain schools that just have affinities and traditional rivalries with other schools. And I'm probably the best example of that is a Rainier Beach, for instance, always opts up because they have, even though they're a school not that much larger than us, they opt up into the, depending on the year, the 3A or the 4A, because that's the level of competition that they want to compete under. So we've begun initial conversations around this next 4-year cycle and the potential, and I say it is potential at this point, for us to become reclassified into the next lower size league, which would make us one of the larger of the 2B schools, but would bring back some traditional rivalries that we've had in the past, meaning Columbia, Burbank, Findlay, schools of that nature. We're still in the process. We haven't even seen the paperwork yet. The WIA has not released it publicly. We got an email this morning that says it should be coming in November. Typically, the way that this works is there is an initial athletic assignment made that does not take into account any appeals, either up or down. So once those numbers happen, then the process starts for appeals. You see a number go up, you see a number go down, and then they will try to equalize those numbers so that there is not, for instance, only 15 or 20 super large 4A high schools and for instance, there was one year, I think there were 80 in the 3A level. So they had to adjust that. They moved some 3As up to be able to have a full 4A classification. There is a lot of movement. If you've been a fan of watching high school sports, especially in the region, you've seen schools like Findlay, schools like Burbank moving up and down, even within an amount of a cycle because there is an appeals process every 2 years out of the 4 that you can appeal. So I just wanted to get it out before the board now that there is the potential of us coming back to the board in December and asking if the board is content with where this 4-year cycle is putting us, or whether or not we would want to be considering appealing to go down. Quite frankly, when you see some of these, I mean, Wahluke is a school district, has over 1,000 more kids than County Bend City. Toppenish High School has 650 students, and yet they play in our same league. So while we would certainly be in the larger side of the 2B, it would not even be though the same level of gap that there currently is within our own league. And the idea behind the movement of classifications, it's not about wins or losses. Wins and losses are cyclical. They come and they go. We've been at the top of cycles before and we've been in the bottom. What we are noticing, however, is that top to bottom, we are really struggling across sports to be competitive, meaning that it's one thing to lose a game, a football game 38-34 and have a lot of those types of scores. At least we're competitive, we're in the games. We're not in the position right now where we're real competitive with anyone in our league. And it's not just in football. Football's kind of the bell tower of the sports, but there are though some rules and some applying factors that Mr. Hansen would have to work on if the high school made the decision to bring to the board in December a quest to appeal down. But like I said, I wanted to get it out front of the board before anything gets too official. But we will have Mr. Hansen and Mr. Henry at probably the only December meeting, so that they can answer questions about it. We anticipate having an initial placement by that time.
Okay, I'm sure they'll gauge the district people's opinions.
Yes.
I see there's quite a list in that conference.
Yeah.
Any questions?
And certainly if any of the board members that aren't here this evening have any questions or think of anything, we can get those ready for December. Once we see that initial placement, then we can get those answered for the board, or if the board would like to send any of those questions to me, I can forward them to Mr. Hansen and Mr. Henry, and we can make sure they're ready to have those answers for you.
I imagine there'll be other schools jockeying for position.
Correct. And of course, diving into the minutia a little too much probably, but in the WIA's quest to keep the rankings, or excuse me, the levels fairly equal, some of what happens above and below us, depending on the initial placement, can dramatically impact and then shift the entire count. So I anticipate seeing our original alignment set, and then all heck breaks loose with a few people, especially on the west side, demanding to be here or there. Once that fallout happens, it all just kind of slides down.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see.
That is one word for it.
Oops, sorry. Out-of-state travel.
Yeah, as you saw in the request, Mr. Thornton and board members, Ms. Zavala has requested out-of-state travel for 2 staff members to travel to La Cosecha, which is a dual language program in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is November 7th through the 11th. This is the national conference for Dual Language Institute. I know that It's been a while, but we have sent people to La Cosecha before. And most of the districts in the region that you see that have a successful dual language program will have representatives there. It's considered the cutting edge, especially as there are many districts like our own where dual language has been named as a priority for the district and they're in the middle of implementing. So it is my recommendation that because this is a grant funded and named in the grant that we received for dual language, that we should approve this travel for 2 employees to go to La Cosecha this year.
Did I see one of the principals, elementary principal go?
Assuming that the board approves this, we would run this past the EL specialists and the principals to find our folks.
Any questions? Comments? Good, you're pretty quiet. Okay, well, Chair would entertain a motion.
Go ahead and move to approve the out-of-state travel.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
that motion carries. Board comments?
The only comment I have is the workshop that we did, the past Friday. I know it was very informative, learned a lot of stuff from the teachers, that showed up. I think it's something that probably the board probably needs to do a little bit, maybe twice a year or something like that. So I learned quite a bit from the stuff that the programs and how they work, and the excitement of the teachers, it was good to see how they're very motivated, so I think it's pretty good. And I know the teachers that were commenting, they kind of liked it. Instead of going to the schools, you don't really get to talk to the teachers, you kind of see what they're doing, but they're busy with the kids. You can just kind of see, which is also good, but here it's a little more informal. There's the dialogue back and forth, which was very good.
I want to comment on this middle school accountability. I can't believe that we would deny putting this into place. I believe it's exactly what should be in place, and it should be, even in COVID, I mean, as soon as COVID was over and we went back to school, it's kind of what school's about, is holding people accountable. So I'm full support of this. I'd put it in right now. We could. Kind of surprised we hadn't heard about it, that it was not in place.
I agree with you, Dale. We're talking about putting in a academic achievement goal.
Mhm.
We're not gonna hold them accountable somewhere. We gotta start, so.
Gotta be in
Yeah,
place.
Absolutely.
I believe that's how we feel.
Good.
Okay, well, anything else? All right, well, that'll end our meeting. We'll have an executive session.
Oh,
Oh, superintendent's report. Whoa, I'm
Yes.
Cut him
skipping.
off.
Man,
I will
I
take that
didn't get
hint.
away with it.
Okay. Just very quickly.
All right.
So just to give the board a heads up, and we spoke about this a little bit on Friday, but we'll be entering our next, this year's version of the CEE surveys for staff, students, parents. We're hoping to get that active, up and running, first full week of November, be able to get results back fairly quickly. And then as far as I did put out to the staff that our contracts will be up for our One Call Now system, which is our home calling system. And then our contract will be up for our website provider. Our website provider is called Blackboard, and they were actually purchased by a different company. And the company that did the purchasing is actually a company that was considered during the previous contract, and the services were not seen to be as good for Kaibi as Blackboard. So we kind of went backwards in the fact that Blackboard will be changing what we liked about them to go to a company that we didn't really like as much. So we'll be working those two things. We're going to try and make sure that whatever we bring in for both work well together, and that it works for teachers and parents, because the calling system and the ability of our teaching staff to be able to reach out to families is, in my opinion, the biggest thing that we need to accomplish in this one call system. While it's great for snow days or staff notifications of that type, really is a parent communication tool. So David and Molly at the ESD have begun working out some of the systems that are in use around the area, seeing what some costs are and trying to get us some basic numbers. Also, not really helpful having the contract, one up in January, one up in July. So we're going to try and combine those so we have the contracts coming at the same time. So with that, those are my.
Are they gonna find a company that does both and maybe just have one? Probably has.
The option is open. What I will say is that a company that provides a quality website is not always the same company that provides quality services for a phone calling system. If we can find such a thing, yes, I would much prefer that. One of the primary things is we have to make sure that it, in the background, that it talks very well with PowerSchool, so that all of the things that teachers do within PowerSchool are easily transmitted, the data and everything into the new system so that it can go out. And there are several better options than we currently have that quite frankly weren't available when we went with Blackboard. So I anticipate it should be early spring. And by that, I mean probably February, March, we'll make a final decision, and then we'll start a transition, go from there.
Any questions?
Nope.
That's all I have.
That's it. So now I can go into the executive session, and
Correct.
so we'll be going to an executive session for 30 minutes. No business to follow, and our meeting will be adjourned at that time.